Do you work for an employer who's offering you retirement benefits like pension, simple IRA, or a 401k? If so, stop what you're doing and watch this video. Recently, I was in a room with 100 military spouses, and I asked if you are planning for retirement or saving for retirement outside of your spouse's TSP, please raise your hand. Only 10 spouses raised their hand out of 100. That's right, 90% of the spouses in that room were not planning or saving for retirement. So I have financial counselor Kate Horrell on today to talk to you about why you should be using employer matching benefits in part 1. Let's get started.
Virtual employment is here to stay. I'm military spouse, VirtForce founder, and your remote work expert, Kimber Hill. Subscribe now to learn how you too can thrive in the virtual workforce.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the VirtForce podcast. I'm VirtForce founder and your Milspo bestie, Kimber Hill. Today, I'm chatting with Kate Horrell. We're bringing you financial empowerment. Kate is an accredited financial advisor, Navy spouse, and mom of 4. She's helped numerous military families navigate their finances. And in this episode, we are asking her to give you financial advice about your retirement and savings plans. Welcome, Kate. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about it.
As you know, VirtForce helps many military spouses land both 1099 employment and W-2 employment. And we support Milspouses in the full spectrum of remote work, from gig-based and project-based work to hourly work, all the way to salary work. So what I want to do is make sure we create some content so Milspouses can understand what their retirement and savings plan options are, no matter where they fall on the work spectrum. So I wanted to start with our W-2 employees. Kate, can you tell us some of the different investing options that you might see available to people who are working on W-2 as an employee?
Yes, employees who are paid by W-2 very often have some sort of employer-based retirement option. You might hear them be a 401k or a 403b or a 457. These are all plans that the employee would contribute some money and they may or may not get a match from their employer. So 401ks, 403bs, and similar plans are what's called a defined contribution plan. And if you think about the word contribution, that will help you keep these straight. Because the employee contributes money into an account that's been set up by the employer. These are special accounts that have some sort of tax advantage and are designed to be used for retirement savings. Now, depending on the plan, you may have some sort of choice in terms of how you want this money to be taxed. And you've probably heard these words, traditional or Roth. With a traditional tax treatment, you get a tax break at the time you contribute the money. But when you take the money out at the end, you will pay taxes on the money that you put in and all the growth that you've earned over the years. The other kind of tax treatment is the Roth tax treatment. This money, you pay the taxes on it when it's earned, but that money grows for however long it's in the account, tax-free, and as long as you're withdrawing it under the rules of the plan, there's no tax burden when it's withdrawn, and that's on both the growth and the money that you put in the first place.
I've always been advised to tax that money up front because most likely our taxes are going to grow by the time we're 60, right?
As a default, the Roth option is good. Everybody's situation is different, and there are a lot of variables, particularly if you are perhaps at a break-even point for some sort of tax credit. Maybe you've got kids in college and you're trying to get the educational tax credit. But as a default, the Roth is typically a good choice. And if you don't know and you don't have a tax person and you have to make a snap decision, generally choosing the Roth at least is going to be a good starting point until you get things figured out. So pensions are what's called a defined benefit plan. And so the other one was a defined contribution plan. A defined benefit plan means that the benefit is sort of planned out in advance. And those are ones that you may or may not have to contribute a little bit of your own money to, but it's much more structured. And if you think about a military retirement pay that you might be familiar with, That
Mm-hmm.
looks like a pension. But you know going in that if you serve this many years, you're going to get this percent of this amount. It's very structured, and it's not dependent on how much you choose to put in.
Correct. And this was really popular in generations past for corporate and corporations. Very few employers do this now. Many of them have phased them out. But we do know that one of our employment partners, Travelers Insurance, is a company that offers both the 401k and the match and the pension. And typically you have to be at the company for a specific period of time to acquire a pension. Do you have any insight on that, Kate?
Yes, every company has their own rules. And because people are familiar with it, I'll reflect this back to the military retirement pay, right? Military retirement pay, unless you meet some sort of exception, we have a 20-year cliff vesting. At 20 years, you're suddenly eligible for the whole thing. Governments and private companies who still have pensions usually don't have a 20-year cliff vesting. Vesting is the term that explains when that money you have access to it. And so some companies may have at 5 years, you can get a small percent, or at 10 years, you might be able to get a certain percentage of this pension that you have earned.
All right, so let's talk about what's more popular and what we see more often, those employer match opportunities.
Yes, so those defined contribution plans, 401k, 403b, 457, whatever it's called at your company, often come with an employer match. Sometimes they also come with what's called an employer automatic contribution. Those are slightly different, but the same concept. This is employer money that's being put into your defined contribution plan. So automatic contribution, some companies will automatically put 1 or 2 or 3% of your pay into your defined contribution plan. In a matching type situation, they will, just like it sounds, match some portion of the money that you contribute to these plans. And in the simplest form, it would be, say, a dollar for dollar match. If you put in 1%, they'll put in 1%. There usually is an upper limit to that. Perhaps it's 3% or 6% is how far they'll match. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. Sometimes they may do 50 cents for every dollar you put in, or they may even have like a chart. For the first 3%, they'll match 1%, and then only 50% after that. So everybody's got a little bit different situation. Your HR department should be experienced in explaining this to you, because they understand that this isn't something that everybody deals with every day.
And I think this is a question when you receive an offer letter, and if that offer letter is with a company who's offering you a salary plus benefits, and they say in that offer letter, oh, and we have a 401k plan, so you'll get a 401k plan. You need to ask what the match is and do a little bit of research. For example, I would say back in 2010 to 2015, the standard match was about 4%, but we had this big employment crisis from 2015 to 2020, and that doubled. And then you'll see companies who offer outrageous matches because they're incredibly competitive. So asking that and knowing what it is something that you need to know before you accept the offer letter.
It is. And the other thing you need to ask about is this vesting that we talked about, because any money that the employer puts in there may not be yours immediately. Your money that you put in is always going to be your money. If you leave tomorrow, you could take that money with you. But sometimes those automatic contributions or those matching contributions do have a service requirement to access those funds. I have a good friend who works for a very well-known internet company, and she is literally counting the days until she's fully vested in her company match, because that's when she's leaving. But if you don't know that, and particularly as a military spouse who may find changes in your life mean that you don't always stay with the company, even as long as you thought you would when you started. If you are unfamiliar with what their vesting policies are, you may end up having to make some different decisions along the way.
That's important to know. And then I want to point you very quickly toward an episode. This is called The GOAT, and I'm going to bring it on screen and link it below so you can go and listen to some of the benefits about traveler's insurance. If you're interested in working for a company who can provide you pension and 401k, go listen to this episode. That could be a good resource for you.